One of the things that we emphasized today was a reaffirmation of the United States' ironclad commitment to the ROK security, and that includes through extended deterrence. That's especially important in light of the ongoing provocations coming from North Korea, including another ICBM launch just yesterday. We condemn it in the strongest terms. The latest launch of many and other provocative actions that it's taken. Flagrant violations all of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. All countries should be demanding that the DPRK cease these destabilizing actions. We are closely consulting with our partners and also with Japan. In fact, Foreign Minister Cho and I were on the phone early this morning with our Japanese counterpart, and we will be focusing, as always, on this in the days to come, including the actions we'll take in response.
As you know, we now assess that North Korea has sent around 10,000 of its soldiers to train in eastern Russia. And as Secretary of State pointed out earlier, our most recent information indicates that about 8,000 of those DPRK soldiers are now in the Kursk Oblast. Now, we've not yet seen these soldiers deploy into combat against Ukraine's forces, but we expect that these North Korean soldiers will join the fight against Ukraine in the coming days. Our assessment is that Putin's forces have trained these North Korean soldiers in artillery operations, UAV operations, and basic infantry operations, including trench clearing. The Kremlin has also provided these DPRK troops with Russian uniforms and equipment. And all of that strongly indicates that Russia intends to use these foreign forces in frontline operations in its war of choice against Ukraine. Make no mistake, if these North Korean troops engage in combat or combat support operations against Ukraine, they would make themselves legitimate military targets. So we are consulting closely with our allies and partners and other countries in the region on these reckless developments and on our response.
You discussed the need for Beijing to do more to rein in North Korea's aggression, but so far China has been largely silent on North Korea's deployment of troops to help Russia's war effort. What do you make of this silence? What do you want to see? What specific steps would you like to see happen next? And is now the time for South Korea to supply offensive arms to Ukraine?
As we said, I think each of us, and as we say collectively, we believe that the entire world should be insisting and demanding that the DPRK cease its provocative actions, both in terms of the repeated missile launches in violation of UN Security Council resolutions, and now also providing its troops for Russia's use in this war of aggression against Ukraine. And when it comes to China, as a member of the United Nations Security Council, we would and should expect no less. And we've had communications with China. In fact, we had a robust conversation just this week, and I think they know well the concerns that we have and the expectations that both in word and deed they'll use the influence that they have to work to curb these activities. So we'll see if they take action. But I think this is a demand signal that's coming not just from us, but from countries around the world that see what the DPRK is doing, both in the immediate region on the Korean Peninsula, but also what it's doing in Europe. Now, it's also very important to note that this is a two-way street between DPRK and Russia. We're seeing what DPRK is providing to Russia in terms of troops. We're very focused on and concerned about what Russia might be doing in order to enhance the DPRK's capacities, its military capacity. That, too, should be of real concern to China because it's profoundly destabilizing in the region.
So with respect to the PRC in this latest development with DPRK troops in Russia, we're speaking to countries throughout the region about this alarming development, and that includes, as Tony pointed out, it includes the PRC. And I would refer you to the PRC for their position, but if China is serious about its desire for de-escalation, it should be asking Russia some hard questions at this point. and whether it intends to broaden this conflict by this kind of behavior. And so we'll continue to work with allies and partners and make sure that we're doing the right things in terms of being prepared to move to the next stage in terms of holding DPRK to task.
Do you have any assessment indicating that there was any Russian technological support regarding the ICBM launch this week? Thank you.
At this point, it's very early in our assessment phase, and we don't see any indication at this point that there was Russian involvement. But again, we'll continue to work with our partners and our allies in the region to analyze this. But again, let me emphasize how irresponsible this behavior is, and we call upon the DPRK to cease and desist. It's potentially destabilizing, and again, it violates the UN UN sanctions. So, but to answer your question specifically, I don't see any Russian involvement. And your second question was?
The second question is regarding the SCM statement yesterday. The statement said that the minister and Secretary Austin decided to include North Korean nuclear attack scenario and future combined exercises between South Korea and the U.S. militaries. So I'm wondering if that requires a revision of wartime operational plans between South Korea and the United States, and when will that happen? If that's happening maybe next year or in coming years, do you have any time frame for that? Thank you.
Well, certainly I won't provide specifics about the contents of our planning, but I would just say that we are constantly planning and upgrading our plans and working to make sure that we are ready to fight tonight if it comes to that. But again, the fact that we continue to increase our interoperability, I think that reassures our allies and partners in the region, and it also serves as a deterrent against anyone who would want to do the unthinkable and try to take on this great alliance.
We will, of course, consult closely with allies and partners. We see North Korean troops enter into combat. As both Lloyd and I have said, that makes them legitimate military targets, but we'll be consulting with allies and partners on any additional steps and any additional measures we may choose to take. For our part, for the United States, as I mentioned earlier, you'll be seeing additional security assistance heading in the direction of Ukraine very soon, to be announced in the coming days. And throughout these months, we will be with more than 50 countries, continuing to strengthen and build support for Ukraine's defense with everything that it needs to effectively defend itself, as well as continuing to put pressure on Russia and to deal in many other ways with the ongoing aggression.
Based upon 10,000 troops from the DPRK that have entered the battle space, is it possible for Ukraine to hold on to Kursk? The answer is yes. And if you take a look at what I said earlier in terms of the numbers of casualties that Russia is suffering on a daily basis, some 1,250 or so casualties per day. You do the math on a given month, those are pretty big numbers. And so the number 10,000 kind of pales in comparison to those kinds of casualties. So this 10,000 won't come close to replacing the numbers that the Russians have lost. And again, I think they're at a point now that if they got to go seeking for assistance to a country like the DPRK, then I think they have some problems. But yes, I do believe that they can hold on to the territory if they choose to do that. They do have options. They can do a number of things, but if they choose to do that, they can hold it. So.
Has there been any new U.S. intelligence or assessment of what Russia might offer North Korea in exchange for deploying over 10,000 troops, whether in the form of military aid, advanced weapons technology, or economic support? And to Secretary Blinken, as DPRK's nuclear and missile programs have become increasingly advanced, U.S. officials have been mentioning the interim steps to engage with North Korea, which raised some speculations about whether the U.S. is poised to employ a policy shift. There was no phrase denuclearization in the joint statement released yesterday after the SCM. So is the U.S. moving the focus of its diplomacy from the pursuit of complete denuclearization of the North Korea to one of deterrence? Thanks.
In terms of what the DPRK may be getting in return for its provision of 10,000 troops, that's unknown at this point, but as you look at things, you would guess that technology would be at the top of the list, and that's, again, one of those things that could be and will be destabilizing depending on what kind of technology we're talking about. Financial assistance, and you can go down the list. And certainly, DPRK stands a chance of gaining in this exchange here. This is something that we're going to have to continue to watch very, very closely. It will potentially embolden them to do more of the kinds of things that we've seen them do here recently, especially the kinds of things that we saw yesterday with the launch of an ICBM.
And our policy remains what it has been and will remain, which is the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.